We have an emergency live on our hands. We have breaking news of all breaking news. And we're going to get into it. Sound the alarm, ladies and gentlemen. Jimmy Garoppolo has returned. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. Oh boy. Oh boy. Gather round, everyone. Gather round. If you haven't heard, if you've been living under a rock, you don't get post notifications or none of that. Let me inform you. The San Francisco 49ers have reworked a deal with Jimmy Garoppolo to keep him on the roster in 2022 as the highest paid backup in the NFL. It is official. Jimmy Garoppolo will be returning to the San Francisco 49ers in 2022. Oh boy, we were waiting for clarity. We were waiting for some clarity since the last press conference on the exit interviews after the NFC Championship. We have been waiting, and sure enough, we have got our answer. The answer is here. Jimmy Garoppolo isn't going anywhere, and we can already see the chat is active today. Right off the bat, Corey Soto says if this isn't a restructure to trade him, it's a sad day for the Niners. Honestly, embarrassing and poor management. We'll get into those types of thoughts here as we continue to talk about the situation. But let's get into more of kind of what this deal looks like, what it means for the 49ers. Let's get some information in here so we can kind of look at the structure of the deal. Per Mike Garoppolo, the new deal is worth $6.5 million fully guaranteed, with incentives that can push it close to $16 million, sources say. So again, what we're talking about today, the 49ers are bringing back Jimmy Garoppolo. We're going to talk about all the implications that it has, what it means for Trey Lance, what it means for Jimmy Garoppolo, what it means for Nate Sudfeld and Brock Purdy. Oh my goodness. Here we were talking about, is it going to be Nate Sudfeld? Is it going to be Brock Purdy that's going to make the roster? Well, it looks like we got news, ladies and gentlemen. Neither one of them are going to be making the roster. The man who's making the roster is this man, the jawline, Jimmy Garoppolo. Oh my goodness. And if any of you guys are watching over there on Facebook, come over to YouTube and vibe with us on YouTube and smash that like button on your way out, even if you're happy, even if you're not happy, because I know there's going to be both sides, and we're going to talk about basically the way I'm perceiving this, why this deal was made. I mean, it makes sense when you look at it from the standpoint that the 49ers have told us for the entirety of this Jimmy Garoppolo situation that they do not plan to release him unless someone gives them an asset. Someone gives them something that's valuable. That hasn't occurred. No one has seemingly came to the 49ers looking to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. So what Jimmy Garoppolo, his representation in the 49ers did was essentially rip up the $25 million deal that he had currently on the table. They restructured to allow the team to be able to drop their cap hit, keep Jimmy Garoppolo on the roster this year as a backup. But hey, we all understand what backup means. It becomes a very muddy situation in the sense of clear-cut starters. Obviously, they're going to give Trey Lance every opportunity to go out and be quarterback one. But clearly, I think bringing back Jimmy Garoppolo into the mix, we understand what that means for the locker room. The locker room loves Jimmy. That is their leader. That is their franchise quarterback. Now, obviously, if the team says we're turning the page towards Trey Lance, they're 100% going to fall in line and support their quarterback one. But now you get a situation, and I'm sure it's going to work out this way. The way that I picture this working out is that Trey Lance is going to start against the Bears. I would imagine he's going to get multiple opportunities to prove that he can play. Um, but we all understand how this league works. We all understand what happens when you have a backup. A lot of you guys were around for the Alex Smith days. A lot of you guys were around when it was the "we want David Carr" chance. We want Troy Smith. You know how it goes. If the starter isn't performing well, especially in this fan base, if the starter isn't performing well, they want the backup. Doesn't matter if it's Trey, doesn't matter if it's Jimmy, because last year when the offense was having a hard time kind of getting into gear, it was, bring in Trey, bring in Trey, bring in Trey. Well, you're going to get it flip side this year. Obviously, Trey's going to go out there. He's going to get the first crack at it. But at any sign of struggle, we already know what it's going to be. You're going to hear a lot of communication from the fan base. You can already see it in the chat. The chat's lighting up over here. The chat is lit right now with this information, and actually looks pretty positive for the most part. I mean, you got it both ways. But it does look like there's a lot of people that aren't too upset that Jimmy Garoppolo is returning. I mean, if we really want to take a high level, and I'm talking about helicopter view, and we get in the helicopter and we go all the way to the top, and we forget about the last couple months that we've been living in and what those kind of small nuances, you know, there probably is, a situation where you look at it, you have a quarterback room of Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. Probably, you know, those are two good quarterbacks to have, but I think we all understand there's a lot of nuance that comes along with this. So it's gonna be really interesting to see how this all plays out, what the relationship is. It's like and if we're gonna be honest with like how this is gonna work between Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance, I don't know how it's gonna work. I don't know if they just kind of bury the hatchet. I mean, take it for what it's worth. Trey Lance unfollowed Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think vice versa after the season. So who's gonna be the first person to follow each other back? who's gonna be the first person on Instagram that hits that follow button on the return back? So we'll see, man. We'll see. Someone said, "What's my YouTube page?" Come vibe with us at the SF Niners. We are the SF Niners on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, come rock with us on YouTube and hit that sub button on your way over. Um, Again, the SF Niners on YouTube. Come vibe with us. Uh, Definitely come vibe with us. Angel says, "Do you think Trey Lance will feel comfortable and confident with knowing Jimmy is still around?" My honest answer is no. My honest answer is no. I feel like that whole situation last year made it uncomfortable for Trey Lance. I feel like obviously you had a lot of the locker room defending Jimmy and kind of coming out and having his back when Trey Lance came into the organization. And you heard a lot of, whether it was Kyle Juszczyk, George Kittle, Trent Williams, Deebo Samuel. It really didn't matter. It was all the top players on the team came out in defense of Jimmy Garoppolo, saying he's our leader, he's our franchise quarterback, that's our guy. So if I have to give an honest answer to this question, I would have to say it's going to make him feel a little bit more uncomfortable. And I also would imagine, I think it's an interesting situation because when we look at Trey Lance right now, I think one of the things that we can look at is his confidence, right? Like when I went back to training camp, watching Trey Lance, some of the things that we're looking at are his confidence, like just believing in himself, going out there, being able to do it. Um, to me, I don't know if this is necessarily a vote of confidence. Obviously, there's other factors working behind the scenes. Obviously, the 49ers wanted to get value for Jimmy Garoppolo, doesn't feel like they could have. So they wanted to bring him back, and they did. They brought him back. I don't, I mean, I like right now, like I'll be one of those people to be like, I said with my whole chest, like, I think there's 0.001% chance that Jimmy's back on the roster. I said this in multiple places. Like, I really didn't think the 49ers were going to bring Jimmy back for this kind of thought process. Like, I don't know if they wanted to potentially obstruct Trey Lance's continued development. I felt like if you bring back Jimmy, the locker room's going to gravitate towards Jimmy, and then you're kind of back into that situation where, you know, you got a young kid who's trying to prove to himself that he can do it. But then you got the grizzled veteran, Jimmy Garoppolo, wait, like right there. Uh, and guess what? That 0.001, and the exact reason I said I'm not going to say 0%. I'm not going to say 0% because anything can happen in the NFL. And sure enough, here it is. Anything can happen. It did happen. Jimmy Garoppolo is back on the San Francisco 49ers. And I don't know, man. It does feel like we're going to see games this year where both quarterbacks are going to play. I don't know if we're going to see like a dueling quarterback or anything like that. Um, where like, Trey will get a couple series and then Jimmy gets, I don't think any of that. But I think whether an injury occurs or something needs to happen, we're going to see both quarterbacks this year. It really does kind of feel like that. No Limit Daniel says, feel like the Dak and Romo situation. Yeah. And again, we've heard from Jed York himself. He's kind of alluded to this stuff. And had mentioned that, I know a lot of fans didn't like hearing it, but he was basically saying if, Steve Young and Joe Montana could do it, why can't Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance? And hey, guess what? Look at where we stand. The 49ers keep him around for this year. It is going to be bonkers in the sense of fan reaction, the way fans are going to take this. I think if we take a step inside that locker room and try to look at it from their perspective, I don't think they got a huge problem with it, if we're being honest. Like if we're looking at the guys inside the locker room and you're looking at, your George Kittles, your Trent Williams, those types of guys, they're probably happy with this decision. They probably love seeing Jimmy Garoppolo come back into the mix. So who knows? Maybe this is another thing that, somehow in a weird way galvanizes the locker room back around. This is crazy, ladies and gentlemen. The fact that we are talking about this, I really did not believe this was going to happen, but here we are. Here we are. The San Francisco 49ers keep Jimmy Garoppolo. D Chunks says the restructure makes it easier to trade him. I do believe that I did see he's got no trade clause. Jimmy Garoppolo has a no trade clause. Let me say that again. So the restructure doesn't make it easier to trade. It makes it difficult. Meaning 100% Jimmy Garoppolo will be playing for the San Francisco 49ers in 2022. Um, he will not be traded. He can't be traded. It's literally negotiated into the contract that he can't be traded. So that is wild. That is absolutely wild. Uh, there's no tag. He can't be tagged at the end of the year. There's no trade clause. Um, the 49ers get a bunch of cap relief. So per Albert Breer, the 49ers paid him a $6.5 million base contract. He can make up to $500,000 per game in roster bonuses, plus another $9 million in playtime incentives. So clearly, a lot of incentives for Jimmy Garoppolo to get on the field. But since there's so much incentives to get him on the field, it does feel more like a competition than a standard kind of backup scenario. Um, I do believe, Jimmy's going to want to get on that field. Jimmy Garoppolo uh, is a starter in this league. He envisions himself as a starter in this league. So it's here. It is here. Jimmy Garoppolo is here to stay this year. No trade clause. We're going to see Jimmy Garoppolo for the San Francisco 49ers in 2022. Corey Soto says, so you take this at face value. You don't think this is to trade him. As we talked about, Corey, he has a no trade clause. So no trade clause means no trade. Jimmy is here to stay. You can try to rationalize it in any way you want from the franchise's perspective. From if you had to put yourself in like this situation, from a different scenario, and you put yourself in the franchise's situation where their number one goal is winning football games, I can understand it from that standpoint. And this is a bottom line business. So in a bottom line business, if your quarterback room is Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe they see themselves having an ability to win more games. Jimmy can waive it. Yeah, Jimmy can waive his no trade clause. That's up to him, though. The 49ers can't willingly trade him to anywhere that he wants to go. But he does have a no trade clause. So that means that, yes, thank you, right here. No trade clause only means Jimmy has to agree to the trade, not that he can be traded at all. But again, we'll see what that means in regards to him actually potentially getting traded. That means the team would have to come after him. Obviously, the contract is much more manageable at this point, which means that could happen. But again, he does have to waive the no trade clause. So far, Carlos says, what incentives does he have? I haven't seen specifically about what that looks like in regard to other than in-game roster bonuses, per game roster bonuses. And I haven't seen anything more definitive on the actual like breakdown of what the incentive structure looks like. But I would imagine it's a lot about getting on the field and actually playing. Um, so, man, what a ride! Let's do this. Uh, I think it's time to poll the chat. Now I know you guys have been talking in the chat, but let's get some of your guys' responses up here. How are you guys feeling right now uh with this news that the 49ers are keeping Jimmy Garoppolo for the 2022 season? No trade clause, can be waived if Jimmy chooses so. Um how are you feeling? Do you think this is uh delaying a trade? Do you think this is potentially them not feeling totally comfortable with just Trey Lance? What are you guys thinking right now? Let's see what the chat is saying. Jesse says hurt. Let's see. Devastated. SDS, we need Jimmy. Great backup. Jason says, love this move. Uh, my head gonna blow up any second now. Alex says, great news. We need Jimmy. Jimmy's a real one. Travis says, stoked. Confused and optimistic. Alex says, great news. We need Jimmy. Such a great deal. I love it. Pissed. Let's see what else we got. Feeling a little shook. Makes the goodbye from March a little awkward. I don't. It's been awkward the whole time. So par for the course. This team doesn't know what awkward is at this point. High altitude says pissed. Stupidest move Kyle's ever done. I'm shocked, annoyed, mad as F. Love the move. Good move. Both. Sean says, I feel like this could be a good shot for Jimmy and us as well. I'm good with Jimmy, similar to Mariota. Insurance policy point blank. That's great that he's staying. Obviously, Trey isn't consistent. So you can kind of get a sense. It's you got some that are really happy about it, some that aren't, some that are indifferent. It's definitely going to be something that takes some acclimation time. It's definitely going to take something, I think, for all of us to get used to. Again, like I understand the move, like it makes sense from like a big time high level overview standpoint without trying to like put myself into the locker room. But again, or put myself into Trey Lance's shoes. Brian says this move is already having negative backlash on Trey. All my friends of other teams are clowning, saying we don't trust Trey. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. You know, confidence in the NFL is very fragile, and Trey's confidence has been tested early in his career, and he's very young. So we'll see, man. We'll see how it works out. Trey's either going to have to rise to the occasion. He's going to have to block out the noise more than ever. And, you know, now Trey's going to have to look over his shoulder. So, I mean, if you think about it, Jimmy Garoppolo had to do this all last year, right? Jimmy Garoppolo had to deal with these questions. Oh, this is another one. Think of all the questions this year for the players. Oh my goodness. Every question that a player is going to get is going to be about a quarterback this year. Every question. So, Jimmy or Trey this week? How's Jimmy doing? How's Trey doing? Oh my goodness. The guys inside that locker room are going to get a heavy dose of questions about the quarterback. We thought last year was a little intense with the the questions, uh, about the quarterback situation. I mean, we got spicy Kyle, we got spicy Kittle, we got spicy everyone last year with all the quarterback questions. Oh boy. It's woo. That's crazy. That is crazy. Corey says this will waste the season. This isn't good. The stupid drama is going to be ruinous. Bet. Vishal, what's up? Vishal says, "What's up, SDS? Maybe it's better than having him sign with the Seahawks." Well, if you pulled Twitter, I think a lot of people on Twitter had no problems with sending Jimmy Garoppolo to the Seahawks. Carlos, shout out everyone sending the super chats. Appreciate you. Carlos says, "Do you think we can pull off what the Saints did?" Um, and when you're saying what the Saints did, are you talking about like Drew Brees and why am I blanking on his name? The quarterback, running back, tight end, special teamer, slot wide receiver, Taysom Hill. That's who you're talking about. So you're kind of thinking, are you thinking a little Drew Brees, Taysom Hill action? I don't. Uh, because they're gonna have to give Trey Lance, I guess, the opportunity to start. I guess. I don't know how this works, man. I don't know how this works. I would imagine again, it's being announced that it's the way it's being perceived in the media is it's being announced that Jimmy's going to be a backup, and that's what the pay looks like. His contract emulates a backup. It makes him the highest paid backup. But Jimmy's back in that role. Trey had to play in that role. So now I guess it's Jimmy's turn to start as a backup and then build up to then see what it is. So Trey Lance is obviously going to get the first crack at it, but let's see here. Some more stuff coming out. So this is someone asked about bonus structure. This is from Jeremy Fowler. Jimmy Garoppolo's new contract with San Francisco has a bonus structure for playing in games and winning games he plays in separate bonuses. The win bonus pays $100,000 per outing, for example. So if Jimmy Garoppolo wins a football game, he then will make $100,000 bonus based on those wins. So very interesting. Very, very interesting. But as it stands right now, from what we understand, the San Francisco 49ers are going to be starting Trey Lance, and then it's up to Trey Lance to win the job, I guess. It's up to Trey Lance to maintain it because just like we talked about on the flip side, Trey Lance was kind of nipping at the heels of Jimmy Garoppolo early. He had the finger injury against the Rams, kind of set him back. Then kind of around week 4, week 5, it felt like the tide could be turning to Lance. Then Lance got hurt week 5. And then Garoppolo was able to kind of maintain it. Even in that Chicago game, week 8, people said they saw Trey Lance warming up on the sideline before you had that Debo third and long that went for a touchdown. People said they saw Trey Lance warming up on the sideline to get into the game. But Jimmy was able to hold him off. So it's going to be I think, a similar situation. I think ultimately they're going to want the best player out on the field. So that means if that's Trey, he's got to prove it. He's got to show it. And he's got to do with Jimmy Garoppolo on the roster. And if there becomes a situation where Trey gets hurt, obviously we understand they're going to turn to Jimmy. Um, I don't know what the leash is going to look like. I don't know if it's going to be a short leash. I don't know if they're going to give him opportunities to make mistakes because, again, if you look at the contract and you look at the way it's set up, there's heavy incentive for Jimmy Garoppolo to get in and play and win because he'll make a lot more money that way. So there's heavy incentive for Jimmy to play. It's not like it's this contract is heavily incentive based for Jimmy Garoppolo to get in and play. So that's what it's coming down to. So it's gonna be wild, man. This is unprecedented in the sense of having a kind of franchise quarterback say goodbye and then get renegotiated and then come back to the team. I'm not sure I've seen this anywhere else. I don't know if you guys have either. But this feels like something that is brand new. Feels like, hey, this haven't seen a whole lot of this. Like I'm not sure I can go back to like other team situations or anything to where a quarterback says goodbye and then renegotiates and then finds his way onto a team. When you traded a ton to go get Trey Lance, it's going to be interesting. It is going to be interesting. Godzilla says, "This is the true power of being handsome." Who said QB face doesn't matter? Um, so man, this is crazy, man. This is crazy. And I get it, in a sense, like it's not like Trey Lance has went above and beyond in training camp and joint practices and in preseason. You can definitely tell Trey has been a little bit shaky, but I felt like that's a part of the process is kind of growing with those growing pains. Obviously, Jimmy Garoppolo uh, adds a bit of security in the sense that, okay, you assume Trey Lance is having some growing pains. He's going to get out of those growing pains. He's going to be a franchise quarterback. That's the assumption. That's the optimist outlook that we've been taking. But on the flip side, what if that doesn't pan out? What if that doesn't play that way? Then you have Jimmy Garoppolo to lean on. Clearly a leader in the locker room. So it's a crazy situation, man. I'm definitely shocked to be talking about this, to be discussing this with you all. The fact that Jimmy Garoppolo will be on the roster this year. Um, so, and again, I don't think, I like to try to keep objective conversations about these, especially in our chats and things like that, because on one side, you're going to have people saying like Trey's a bust or Jimmy's the starter or this, that, and the other thing. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Cap says Jimmy is going to be traded. I guess I this new deal makes it easier to trade him because it's so heavily incentive based now. And the 49ers did all the front end work by being able to get the contract renegotiated. Maybe that makes Jimmy Garoppolo more attractive for a team to come trade for him, because I would imagine that the biggest thing that was holding up a Jimmy Garoppolo deal was the trade. So, or not the trade, the contract. So now that the contract is figured out, who knows? Maybe that has a situation. Uh, there is a no trade clause, but Jimmy can waive the no trade clause. So doesn't mean he can't be traded. It it means that he's likely not going to go just anywhere. It means that really dwindles the chances of really dwindles the chances for him to be traded because again, he can only go where he wants to go. Um, but who knows? Is anyone picking up that phone and call in the San Francisco 49ers to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo at this point? Because I believe by kind of restructuring the deal, I think it also changes the value of the compensation. I feel like you could argue that the compensation would be lower because the team would have to take on a higher contract. Now, since the contract is manageable, you can make the argument that the compensation would have to be higher um, because you're getting a starting caliber quarterback at a fraction of the cost. Uh, you know what I mean? Like if you're looking at it from that standpoint, you still have a starting quarterback that is now has a backup deal and it's incentive based, so that could be attractive to another team. But again, there's a lot of moving parts that goes into a trade, so it's going to be fascinating. Uh, it's going to be fascinating. Alec says, Brad, how trigger happy does this make Shanahan if Trey struggles? I don't know. I don't know because I just don't know. It all depends on like if this is an indictment on Trey or like, we're kind of talking about right now if this is just a facilitator trade. So I think we have to kind of understand what it means. I don't think we can wrap our head around right now if this was like, you know, this is a move done because they couldn't facilitate a trade. They didn't want to cut Jimmy for nothing. They've told us that for an entire offseason. They make this move to restructure the deal. It makes him more attractive to an outside team. You give him some form of control by putting a no trade clause in there so he can pick where he wants to go and have an opportunity. So there's a multiple different layers here. If you're looking at it from that standpoint, then trigger happy doesn't really matter because they're hopefully or they're trying to potentially get a trade to materialize, or it's on the other side where they feel like they needed to keep him um, and just for insurance for the overall season because you're looking at a Super Bowl roster and you have a quarterback who has made deep runs into the playoffs. And so it depends on, first of all, like what the thought process was. But if the thought process was more of a security and they wanted to keep Jimmy in case Trey struggles or Trey gets hurt, then I d- it I don't know. I don't know. It could be a couple weeks, could be half the season. But I imagine they got to give him a couple weeks to get it going and get it started. So we'll really figure out what's going to go on as it progresses here. Moneymaker71, shout out the $20 super chat, says, love the move to keep Jimmy on the roster to protect ourselves. God forbid Lance were to get hurt. Rather Jimmy than Sudfeld, no brainer. Hashtag SDS. I do agree with that. Like, I think Jimmy Garoppolo is a substantially better person to have on the roster opposed to Nate Sudfeld as your primary backup or someone who's going to potentially play. You look at Trey Lance, maybe the ability or the foresight that they're going to use his legs a bunch. Maybe that means he could get hurt. He did get hurt his rookie season on multiple occasions. And if you put this, Super Bowl roster in the hands of Nate Sudfeld or Brock Purdy. I think the 49ers knew that that wasn't going to be something that was going to be beneficial for a a long run. So ultimately, it feels like it's the best of both worlds. You can get Jimmy Garoppolo back on the roster. Again, if you're thinking Super Bowl, if you're thinking long term, if you're thinking, what happens if an injury occurs, if you're thinking that way, this does make some sense. You get him back on a very cheap deal. You're able to kind of strip away a huge cap hit. Um, if an injury occurs to Trey Lance, then you have a quarterback that this team already believes in, already has a ton of faith in, and has done it before. So, best case scenario, Trey Lance plays really well, holds Jimmy off, and Jimmy is the backup in case, break glass in case of emergency. And Trey Lance leads the 49ers to a deep playoff run. And then at the end of the year, they move on. Trey's better for it. Trey, again, early career has had to deal with a lot of adversity, but he's able to overcome it and they go on their way. Worst case scenario for Trey, he either gets hurt or he doesn't play at a high level. And then Jimmy gets put in, and then Jimmy takes, and this is worst case scenario for Trey. Like, worst case scenario for Trey in a vacuum is he doesn't play well and or gets hurt. Then Jimmy comes in, Jimmy takes them to a deep playoff run, and then the 49ers are talking about, well, maybe we just keep Jimmy again. So that's worst case scenario for Trey. Best case scenario for the 49ers is they're in the playoffs and they're making a deep playoff run. So whether that's with Trey, whether that's with Jimmy, as fans, we shouldn't really care. But ultimately, what we get hung up on is the investment put into Trey. And again, those are first round picks that aren't contributing to this year or next year. And maybe if the plan was to keep Jimmy all along, you could use use revisionist history to be like, oh, that could have been Micah Parsons or that could have been Rashawn Slater. You know what I mean? You can play that game as well. So ultimately, it's just going to be crazy. It's just going to be crazy to see how this all plays out. I think it's too early to really understand like what it is right now. We're just talking it out. We're talking out all the different scenarios. We're talking out like what it could mean, what it could be. And right now, what it is, it's crazy. That's what it is. But Heinz, looking into the future, I guess having two quarterbacks is better than one. I don't know anymore. I don't know these days. I don't know anymore, man. I don't even know anymore, man. So we're gonna find out. But my goodness, definitely was not expecting this move at all. Uh, especially today. But here we are. The 49ers bring back Jimmy Garoppolo on a restructured 1-year deal. Oh, that's a good point. Angelic Ambition says 49ers get a third round comp pick if when Jimmy Garoppolo leaves next season. Lynch gets the comp he wanted without having to pay 10 plus million of Jimmy G's salary in a trade. This is a really good point. Very good point. This is a very good point that we have not touched on. So shout out Angelic Ambition for this thought. Yeah, that's true. From my understanding of the comp formula, again, I'm not going to pretend like I am a comp formula genius, not even in the slightest. But in my understanding of the comp pick formula, I do believe Angelic Ambition is correct that if Jimmy Garoppolo stays the entire year and then signs elsewhere, the 49ers would get a third round comp pick, which again is better than nothing, on top of the security of understanding you have a guy who's done it before, with all the questions kind of swirling around Trey Lance right now. So I feel like if we So this is the thing. Like, let's do biggest winners and losers, and let's get the chat involved. Who's the biggest winner of this? Is it the 49ers in general? Is it Jimmy Garoppolo? Is it the 49ers offense? Who's the biggest winner? Drop it into the chat. Who do you think is the biggest winner of Jimmy Garoppolo coming back to the team? Who's the biggest winner? Because I kind of want to work through something. Who's the biggest winner right now with him coming back? And what we got in the chat so far is Jimmy. Boomer says the Niners. Here comes the Nick Foles story for the Niners. Debo is the winner. Niners. Jimmy, he gets paid to sit. 49ers are the biggest winners. Team is the biggest winners. Lance is the loser. We are the fans. 49ers. Niners and Jimmy. 49ers in general. That's rough. 49ers. Both parties. Highthorn says nobody. Justin Fields wins. The 49ers in general. Not the fans, us the fans. So it's a little bit both ways. So the reason why I'm asking this question is because if you have to take a high level view, and again, we're invested as fans and to see Trey Lance be successful. But if we take a step back from being hyper focused on the quarterbacks, as fans, what do we want the most? If we're being objective and we're being honest as fans, what do we want? We want the ring. We want the 6th ring. That's what we want. So if you're looking at this objectively from a very high level view and you're trying to get away of the nuance of the quarterback situation, and you're looking at it objectively from the sense of now the 49ers have Trey Lance and Jimmy, makes the hope and the thought that the pursuit of the 6th ring goes up, just because we could all rationalize that Trey Lance could potentially get hurt, or maybe he doesn't perform. What does that do for the rest of the team? Blah, 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 blah. You now have two options. One we know, one is a work in progress. We'll see how it plays out. But ultimately, the number one thing that fans really do want is a ring. So at this point, that might be where I have to stand on this. Like, I've been trying to be pro Trey in the sense of wanting to give him every opportunity to develop and be that guy that the 49ers spent a hell of a lot on to go get. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the ultimate goal is winning a ring. So if the 49ers believe Jimmy Garoppolo gives them the best shot at either being security to get a ring or potentially a guy who plays a part in getting a ring, who knows, man? Who knows? Who's the biggest loser? Who's the biggest loser of Jimmy Garoppolo coming back to the 49ers this year? Interested to see what the answers are for this particular question. Who came out on the rough end of Jimmy Garoppolo returning to the roster with an opportunity for him to play? Let's see. Right off the bat, we got 2 Lances. 49ers, they're losing a lot of money. The locker room, the Seahawks, nice. Seahawks are the biggest loser. I like that one. Seattle's the biggest loser around here. Trey Lance, Jimmy probably, the Seahawks, locker room. Seahawks, Sudfeld and Purdy. Greasy. Interesting. The Browns lost. Oh, Brandon Ayuk. Biggest winner, Niners. The rest of the NFL, nice. Seahawks taking the L. So I see Lance. So this is going to be crazy, man. This is going to be crazy to see what this season looks like. Oh boy, 49er fans, get your popcorn ready because this season is about to be insane. You know, there's been so much quarterback speculation swirling around this team since 2021, January 2021. Thought we were going to get clarity. I guess we did get clarity, and that clarity is Jimmy Garoppolo will be back on the roster this year. Oh boy, what a time to be alive. Again, it could go multiple directions, it could go multiple ways. I think it's a little too early to give definitive hot spitting takes on anything yet. I think we're all just kind of working through the news that we heard today. But my goodness, crazy, absolutely crazy. Cannot believe that this situation is what it is. Harris says, honestly, Jimmy could be gone very soon. I wouldn't hold my hat on him staying. Contract is quite tradable, and if he had suitors, he's not saying no. I hear you, Harris, but I've been holding my hat for a long time. I've been holding my residency hat for a long time. I'm putting the hat down. I'm officially putting the hat down. I'm not holding it anymore. The 49ers, I get it. They restructured. That could make it more manageable for a trade. I'm not going to sit here and just speculate that he's going to be traded. I'm putting the hat down until something happens, until something definitively happens. I am anticipating Jimmy Garoppolo will be a San Francisco 49er for this season. Nope, putting the tinfoil hat away. We are not bringing the tinfoil hat out. I'm done speculating. I'm taking it for the face value that it is. Hey, the 49ers been trying to tell us for some time now. Again, I felt like you could hear you. Again, you see certain messaging coming out, whether it was like the Tim Kawakami podcast with Jed York. Jed York talked about it. You had when Chris Sims put out the tweet today, I knew exactly what that meant. There's a reason why I put eyeball emojis on it. Like there's a certain type of messaging that they start to kind of perpetuate when they're when they're moving towards a certain thing. And again, you've been seeing it stacking. You have been seeing it stacking for some time now. And again, the Chris Sims tweet today, like I was like, oh yeah, that's happening. He's coming back. I was like, if Chris Sims is tweeting this, like, oh yeah. So that's how I'm going to perceive this. It is what it is, man. It is what it is. I'm not going to continue to try to, spin this as something else. Right now, as we stand, Jimmy Garoppolo will be a San Francisco 49er for the 2022 season and could very well be contributing towards wins. At the end of the day, obviously, we could get real tied up in the compensation that was given up for Trey Lance and things like that and be like, point here, point there. But at the end of the day, all as fans, only thing that we're looking for is a sixth ring. And at this point, if you're telling me that Jimmy Garoppolo being on the roster with Trey Lance will increase your chances of getting a Super Bowl. Whatever. Whatever. That's fine. Let's get it. Let's go get a ring. Let's go get a ring. I'm tired of talking about the quarterback situation. We have our clarity. Jimmy's going to be here for now, for this year. That's how we're going to look at it. And that's now how we move forward. Got to get the ring now. There's no more ifs, ands, or buts, candies and nuts. Doesn't matter. Get the ring. Let's go get it by any means necessary. And again, if this is the 49ers way of saying by any means necessary, then get it done. Get the dang ring. We want the hardware. At the end of the day, again, and this is kind of for us in the chat too, try not to get bogged down in the Jimmy versus Trey conversation. Just try not to. Like, again, if you're happy on one side, you're angry on one side, just try not to get bogged down too much in the quarterback position. And just remember, the logo, you can see it behind me, is ultimately what we are rooting for, because the logo is what brings us the championship, and we want the championship. We want that 6th ring. It's been way too long. Go get it. All right. Again, I know a lot of people are happy. A lot of people are upset. Perfect opportunity to go dunk on someone that's another 49er fan. Let's go get a ring. Screw it. Let's just go get a ring. Don't need to dunk on anyone. No need to, like, it is what it is. All right. It is what it is. We move forward. End of the day, from this point on, at least on this channel, all we care about is W's. All we care about are eating W's. That's it. I'm not going to, spend a whole lot of time trying to go back. And we did that last year. And it ultimately landed on Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers going to the NFC Championship, almost to the Super Bowl. So until then, the same thing remains. Get us a ring. That's it. And if it takes Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance being on the same roster, so be it. So be it. And we move forward. It's going to be a crazy week for content. I mean, it's going to be wild leading up all the way to the Bears. Oh, my goodness. Wait till we start to see the clips come out of practice of Jimmy Garoppolo throwing with Trey again. Oh, boy. It is going to be a wild ride. But you wouldn't expect anything less from the San Francisco 49ers at this point. And whatever. Let's get it done. Let's go get this frickin' ring. Let's not argue about quarterbacks all year. We'll take it as it comes. We'll evaluate each game on a game-by-game basis, and that's how we'll handle it. But until then, I appreciate everyone tapping in for the emergency episode that Trey Lance is back. Or not Trey Lance. Trey Lance has been here. It's Jimmy Garoppolo that is back on the roster. And, boy, I think Harris said it best. Whatever happens in the future, may it be the best for us. That's what we want. I'm not going to waste too much time on the quarterback situation. Whatever happens in the future, may it be the best for us. Let's go get that ring. I appreciate all you guys riding. We'll have a lot more content. 49ers are going to be cutting the final 53-man roster. Looks like Nate Sudfeld and Brock Purdy are quickly on the bubble. So looks like the 49ers are going to keep 2 quarterbacks, but neither one of them are going to be Nate Sudfeld or Brock Purdy. Oh, how the turntables. Appreciate everyone. Smash that like button on your way out. We're out of here. And oh boy, what a day. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to